Good morning. This is Fucked Up Book Club. I'm Sunny Rosario, your friend from the internet, and today we're going to read chapter 1 of The Mandibles. This chapter is called Gray Water. Let's chit chat for a moment and then we'll jump right into the book. So for Labor Day, I actually went on vacation to Moab, Utah. Have you ever been to Moab? Comment down below if you've been there and let me know what you think of it. So I bought myself a gift. I've been wanting some original pieces of art for my office here. I spend a lot of time in here and I've filled it up with a few of my favorite things, let's say. So I want to show you my art quickly. So I bought 3 pieces in total, and when I saw them, I fell in love. Well, actually, I saw one of them and I was like, I want that. I have to have that. And then I noticed all the other ones that were in this grouping, and I wanted them all, but I stopped at 3. So this is one of my favorites. This is my beautiful little hand-painted steer. Look at his pretty horns. Is that what they call them? Horns. Oh my gosh, I just saw that and I fell in love. This is not the one I fell in love with. I'm saving the best for last. The next one, actually you can't see them, but my husband and I purchased this house because of all the aspen trees, that's what we call them here, or birch trees, that grow around this house. When I'm up in my kitchen, I look out and it actually kind of looks a lot like this. So this one was very special and I love this house. So you can see all the cute little animals that are hiding in the trees. We even have a little froggy over here. Isn't that adorable? Oh my gosh. And this one, my husband could not figure out why I wanted this one. Because I actually have trauma. I have a lot of trauma in my life, but involving squirrels. So for me to gravitate toward this is a little strange, but I saw it and I was like, it spoke to me. Isn't it that way with art? You just don't know why you love something. It evokes a feeling. That's what happened. Look at my little squirrel. Oh my God, aren't they so cute? So these this is such a delight. It boosted my spirits, it raised my mood, and it's actually the reason that all of my art supplies are scattered all over the office here. So yeah, that's what's going on. Let's jump right into this book. I promised I wouldn't chit chat too much, but I just love seeing you guys, and come hang out on my Twitter. It's at Sunlit Roads. I'll do better about leaving links for everything below. I'll actually link the book that we're reading. So if you want to buy it off Amazon, it's not my promotional link or anything. If you just want to go buy the book, you can go buy the book. And I decided that if this goes well and you guys like this series, our very next book is going to be American Gods. Oh, that one's heavy. So let's jump into let's jump right into chapter 1. Let's jump into chapter 1 of The Mandibles. This first chapter is called Gray Water. Okay, so we're shooting for 0 editing on this, okay? We're just going to other than cutting out pauses, I just want to go straight through, okay? And we'll cut it off at a reasonable time, even if we don't get all the way through the chapter. Gray water. Don't use clean water to wash your hands. Intended as a gentle reminder, the admonishment came out shrill. Florence didn't want to seem like what her son would call a boomer poop. Okay, boomer is a word that's heavily used in our vernacular right now, and this book was written a long time ago. I'm sorry, I will leave out the commentary. Florence didn't want to seem like what her son would call a boomer poop. But still, the rules of the household were simple. Esteban constantly flouted them. There were ways of establishing that you weren't under any somewhat older woman's thumb without wasting water. He was such a cripplingly handsome man that she let him get away with almost anything. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, Esteban muttered, dripping his hands into the plastic tub in the sink that caught the runoff. Shreds of cabbage floated around the rim. Now you picking up why they call this gray water? That doesn't make sense, does it? Florence said. When you've already used the clean to use the gray? Only doing what I'm told, her partner said. That's a first. What's put you in such a good mood? Esteban wiped his now greasy hands on an even greasier dish towel. Another rule, a roll of paper towel lasts 6 weeks. That's a rule when there's not economic collapse. I promise to limit the commentary. Something go wrong at Adelphi? Things go nothing but wrong at Adelphi, she grumbled. Drugs, fights, thefts, screaming babies with eczema. That's what homeless shelters are like. Honestly, bewildered by what's so hard to get to. Honestly, I'm bewildered by why it's so hard to get the residents to flush the toilet, which is the height of luxury in this house. I wish you'd find something else. I do too, but don't tell anybody. It would ruin my sainted reputation. Florence returned to slicing cabbage, an economical option even at $20. She wasn't sure how much more of the vegetable her son could stand. Others were always agog at the virtuousness of her having taken on such a demanding, thankless job for 4 long years. But assumptions about her angelic nature were off base. After she'd scraped from one poorly paid, often part-time position to another, whatever wide-eyed altruism had motivated her moronic double major in American Studies and Environmental Policy at Barnard had been beaten out of her almost entirely. Relatable. Half her jobs had been eliminated because an innovation became abruptly obsolete. She'd worked for a company that sold electric long underwear to save on heating bills. And then suddenly consumers only wanted heated underwear backed by electrified graphene. Other positions were eliminated by what in her 20s were called bots, but displaced American workers now call ROBs for obvious reasons. Her most promising position was at a startup that made a tasty protein bars out of cricket powder. Cricket's actually really good for you. I don't want to be forced to eat the crickets, but they're very good for you. Once Hershey's mass-produced a similar but notoriously oily product, the market for insect-based snacks tanked. So when she came across a post in a city shelter in Fort Greene, she applied from a combination of desperation and canniness. The one thing New York City was bound never to run out of was homeless people. So they come in hot in the first page of this book. Like, now do you understand why we're reading this now? It's even more... I haven't read this recently. Like, I'm not reading it in the background, getting ready for our time together. I think I'm going to be shocked throughout the book how much of this is lining up with our current situation. Mom, Willing asked quietly in the doorway, isn't it my turn for a shower? I remember why I quit reading this book now. Her 13-year-old had last bathed only 5 days ago and knew full well they were all allotted 1 shower per week. They went through cases of Komen dry shampoo. Willing complained, too, that standing under the ultra-conservation shower head was like going for a walk in the fog. True, the fine spray made it tricky to get the conditioner out, but then the answer wasn't to use more water. It was to stop using conditioner. Maybe not quite yet, but go ahead, she relented. Don't forget to turn off the water while you're soaping up. I get cold. His delivery was flat. It wasn't complaint. It was a fact. I've read that shivering is good for your metabolism, Florence said. Then my metabolism must be awesome, Willing said dryly, turning heel. The mockery of her dated vernacular wasn't fair. She'd learned years ago to say malicious. If you're right, this water thing will only get worse, Estevan said, taking plates down for dinner. Might as well open the taps full on while we can. I do sometimes fantasize about long, hot showers, Florence confessed. Oh, yeah? He encircled her waist from behind as she cored another cabbage web. Deep inside this tight, bossy choir girl is a hedonist trying to get out. God, I used to bask under a torrent with the water as hot as I could bear. When I was a teenager, the condensation got so bad once that I ruined the bathroom's paint job. That's the sexiest thing you've ever told me, he whispered in her ear. Well, that's depressing. He laughed. His work entailed lifting often stout elderly bodies in and out of mobility scooters, mobs, if you were remotely hip, and it kept him in shape. Tired, certainly, and she might be all of 44, but that made her a spring chicken these days, and the sensation was stirring. They had good sex. Either it was a Mexican thing, or he was simply a man apart, but unlike all the other guys she'd known, Estevan hadn't been raised on a steady diet of porn since he was 5. He had a taste for real women. Oh, this book is a doozy. Not that Florence thought of herself as a great catch. Her younger sister had bagged the looks. Avery was so dark and delicately curved with the trace of fragility men found so fetching. Sinewy and strong simply from keeping busy, narrow-hipped and twitchy, with a long face and a mane of scraggly auburn hair eternally escaping the bandana she wore pirate style to keep the unruly tendrils out of the way. Florence had often been characterized as horsey. She didn't like, this woman is not sitting around thinking, I look like a horse. Like, the voice, the cocky, voice of the writer is just, it drives me insane. She'd out of touch, familiar. She'd interpreted the adjective is a pejorative until Esteban latched onto the descriptor with affection, slapping the haunches of his high-strung filly. Maybe you could do worse than to look like a horse. You can tell this book is a few years old because this type of stereotyping others and referring to females in a certain way is very outdated. You get what I'm saying? The voice is already 10 years out of date. See, I got a whole different philosophy, Esteban mumbled into her neck. Ain't gonna be no more fish. Stuff your face with Chilean sea bass like there's no tomorrow. See, I got a whole different philosophy, Esteban mumbled into her neck. Ain't gonna be no more fish. Stuff your face with Chilean sea bass like there's no tomorrow. Okay, I agree with that. Fine, whatever. Sexy bedroom talk, huh? The danger of there being no tomorrow is the point. The school marmish tut-tut was tempered with self-parody. She knew her stern, upright facade got on his nerves, and if everyone's reaction to water scarcity is to take half-hour showers while they can, we'll run out of water even sooner. But if that's not good enough for you, water is expensive. Immense expensive, as the kids say. What is Lionel's obsession with, like, trendy vernacular in this book? It's like she's trying really, really hard to set the scene, okay? He let go of her waist. Mi querida, you're such a drear. If the Stone Age taught us anything, it's that the world can go to hell in a snap. The little gaps between disasters might as well try to have fun. He had a point. She'd intended to eke out this pound of ground pork through 2 meals. It was their first red meat for a month. Pork is not red meat. Right? After Esteban's urging to seize the day, she decided rashly on one-time portions of 5 ounces apiece. That's like a normal portion. Dizzy with profligacy and abandonment until she caught herself. We were supposed to be middle class. At Barnard, having written her honors thesis on class, 1945 to present, had seemed daring because Americans flattered themselves as beyond class. But that was before the fabled economic downturn that fatally coincided with her college graduation, after which Americans talked about nothing but class. So we're at 10 minutes. We should stop. So it's more aggressive with its narrative than I even remember. We're only on page 6, and a lot of the things that caused me to bring you this book in the first place are already kind of establishing themselves. What's really interesting is when you're not focusing on these middle class characters, you're focusing on the elites. So it gets really interesting and really infuriating then. So hope you're enjoying this series. We'll read a little bit more, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye! Oh, and I want to show you my t-shirt of the day. Appropriate for the mandibles, right? Have a great day.